Hey folks, this is Jesse Randall from the Forestry Innovation Center. We're out here in this in our pumpkin patch, and this is part of our wildlife and kind of goodwill demonstration that we put together. This is a leftover field and it's by bulk acres, so I had it provided for researchers to come in and do more agronomic crops, and they've used up all of the ground that they needed, and so I had this leftover field. And so what we wanted to do is not only provide back to the community, but we wanted an example of what wildlife enthusiasts could do for a longer term food source for the wildlife. And so what you see here is a pumpkin patch. We've come in, we've planted them with an old corn planter, and they're on 7-foot rows, and within the row they're at about a 10 to 12 foot spacing. What we're looking at is Howden pumpkins, and what we have is between 1 and 2 pumpkins per hill. You can see that within the strip that we didn't till, there's a lot of weeds and there's a lot of weed pressure. And so what we're gonna have to do is come through here with a mechanical hoe these guys out, and then on a really calm day, we're gonna come in with a backpack sprayer, and we're just gonna spray the bindweed and the wild buckwheat that are around these, because even at this stage, the competition is there, and it's gonna limit the production that you have. Now, what are we gonna do with these? Well, one, we're gonna look at the production per acre that we have. Very minimal input right now. Virtually no fertilizer has been added to these pumpkins. We're not going to irrigate these guys. This is like what a wildlife person would do at their camp if they wanted a longer term food source into the fall. Whatever you do when you have pumpkins, you are going to have to fence the deer out initially. They really like to get into the pumpkins as soon as they begin to form and as soon as they begin to develop any sugar at all in those pumpkins. And so we're inside a high fence right now, mainly to demonstrate the production capacity that you can have by simply growing pumpkins. Now, what I would do if this were mine, I would have it fenced to keep the deer out while they're growing, and then sequentially open the field up as I was either hunting it or sitting in my blind with the kids to watch the deer, because you'll be amazed. They'll come in and the only thing left of that pumpkin that will form this fall will be the stem, and they'll come in and they will eat lots of pumpkins. They love pumpkins. So this is a really viable option, and it's one that we want to put into a rotation. You know, a lot of times you're going to see us have corn, you're going to have us see soybeans, sunflowers, sugar beets, purple top turnips, dwarf Essex rape. All of that's going to be demonstrated here on our virtual field days and our in-person field days, hopefully in the fall of 2020 when we come back open to the public. But you'll also be able to see how this develops. So this is just a quick update on our pumpkin patch. So yes, it's weedy within the row, and we'll do one more pass with our rototiller real quick before the vines begin to run. And once they begin to run, they're gonna spread out, overtake the site, and that should suppress the weeds as well. So we have to get through the next 2 weeks as they start to run. Hey folks, we're out here in our soybean plot. This is done as a wildlife food plot demonstration. So we worked with Ray's feed mill over in Bark River to get us some forage soybeans. And we came in here with our old John Deere planter. We got them in the ground, and they've done incredibly well. We're looking for a stand population in that 150,000 range per acre. We've planted these on roughly 30-inch rows. And what you're going to quickly see in here when you plant the soybean field is a lot of weeds, and these are a GMO bean. They're Roundup ready. And so Kyle came in just about a week ago, just under a week ago, hit this with a quart per acre of Roundup and really smoked a lot of the weeds. And you can see there's a few misses here. Our small little boom sprayer, there was a little bit of a gap when we overlapped from spray path to spray path, but he did a great job following the labels. And now what's going to happen is this was fairly green with weeds, and now we've taken that weed pressure away from the plant, but we've made it really easy for the deer to now find them. And you can already see in certain rows, the deer have come in and they've nipped that terminal growth off. And so we're going to come in and we're working with rays on some rolls of fencing. We're going to build some exclosures, put them around these soybeans. So by this fall, when we host our forage or our food plot field day for the hunters and for those recreationalists that like to view wildlife, they're really going to see that throughout the growing season, the deer on this 1,800 acre parcel of ground really keyed in on this 1 to 2 acre food plot. And so we know that 1 to 2 acres is just not enough to get soybeans well into the fall where a hunter could hunt over them. This is done more to provide really high quality nutrition early in the growing season for the wildlife, and in a lot of cases for the deer to put on some body weight after a hard winter, for them to grow really good antlers. We're providing this more as a summertime forage. Come mid-August, early August, the deer probably will have eaten most of these down to the ground, and so we're going to come in and over top of this, when we see that 3, 4, 5 day stretch of rain, we're going to cover crop this with either rye, or we're going to come over the top with an Australian pea, a forage pea. Again, those forage peas like to climb, so there isn't going to be a lot for them to establish on. So right on the other end of that soybean, which we just showed you, is this field corn patch. So this is going to be left standing for wildlife all through the winter, and it's going to provide them a fairly stable food source. But we also wanted to replicate what a lot of the wildlife enthusiasts do. They think, you know, buying a 100-pound sack of corn is great, and so growing corn must be even better. Well, there's a lot that goes into sweet corn, or actually field corn, excuse me. And so what we've done is we've broken this 1 acre, little over an acre parcel down, and we're going to show you what a farmer would fertilize their rate at, and then we're going to show you what the traditional sportsman who puts a little bit of money into fertilizer does at a medium to low rate. And then we're going to show you what a lot of folks do is they throw the corn out there and they never fertilize it. And so we're going to show you the difference in growth, the difference in color, the difference in yield across a 0, a low to medium, and a high fertilizer rate. And so we can already begin to see on this one, plants are much greener. They're about a foot, a little over a foot tall. And then as you step down through, and you'll see that from the airborne pictures, it's going to change in color, it's going to change in size. But you can also see that we're already seeing this edge effect with wildlife damage. And so you will see us put out cages here this week. We'll put cages in to exclude deer and show you what it looks like to compare deer versus no deer throughout the growing season. Again, all that they're eating is providing forage for them. And so if you look at this row, this opportunistic deer came through and just mowed these guys off as they start to do that. So they've taken a lot of photosynthetic capacity away from these 8, 9, 10 plants right in this area. And so you'll begin to see that on your end rows. And so having very long, narrow food plots, I like it from a bow hunting standpoint, from a natural edge standpoint, but the more edge you create with your food plot, the more in-season damage you're gonna have. Well, to me, this is acceptable. They're out here, they're foraging, they're putting muscle mass on, they're putting it into their antlers, but we'll see what our level of damage, because at the end, I want this food plot to go well into the fall and winter as a food source, not only for deer, but for turkey and for grouse and for other songbirds, non-game birds. So all of what we're doing is based on providing as many different food sources in as many different structures for as many different wildlife as we can possibly showcase in amongst our prairie that we've just recently planted. So we're out here, we're in our soybean plot. This is about 1.2, 1.3 acres worth of sunflowers. And we're really limited as to the weed control options that we're now faced with. As soon as I planted it, I should have put down a pre-emergent, and I did not. Primarily because most of the time our wildlife enthusiasts and our hunting public are not going to go through the route of doing a heavy herbicide treatment. And so what you see is sunflowers are broadleaves, and so they're growing really well. But there's, you know, lamb's quarter, there's red root, there's some grasses in here, and I had a 1940s, 1950s technology tractor with a field cultivator, a 2-row cultivator. I came through with the sweeps on, and I cultivated this, kind of put up a mound. That's about all the weed control I can do on this plot because these are non-GMO sunflowers, and so I'm really limited knocking out the broadleaves that won't hurt the sunflowers. Now they make grass herbicides, but our field primarily is overrun with broadleaves. So we're gonna see how this field does. My hope is that the sunflowers are going to outcompete and outgrow vertically so they're not so suppressed by the annual weeds, annual broadleaf weeds. If I was heavy on the grass component in here, I would have used a grass herbicide over this. I really didn't need to spray this. I just wish in the future we'll come up with a better GMO sunflower. This again is more for those songbirds. Again, over winter these are going to stand up and you know, have snow sift in around them, so it's going to be a beautiful food plot for non-game wildlife. The turkeys will be in here, there might be some grouse, there might be a few pheasants, but all in all the wildlife, the non-game birds are going to be in here big time. Plus, sunflowers are absolutely beautiful in August when they're flowering, and so part of this is for the visual appeal, part of it is for the non-game wildlife. All of it has problems when you don't have pre-emergent weed control and you're overrun with broadleaf weeds. There's just so few options at this point. So we're just hoping that this will come out of it, grow above it, and do something for us. So this is one of those examples where you want to see it on a research and demonstration farm and not in your own food plot. This is kind of a spectacular failure so far anyways. You're standing in, or I'm standing in your viewing, about 1/8 of an acre of what should be sugar beets, but it's almost uniformly broadleaf weeds. Now, we went over the top at the suggestion of our co-op with a product called Upbeat. You know, that was back when those weeds were real small, and you could still row up, and right here is our sugar beets. You could row them up, and really, I don't know if that Upbeat product did anything for us right now. I'm gonna have the crop consultant come out, and we're gonna figure out what to do. I'm at the point now in this site where these are really non-GMO, so they're not Roundup Ready sugar beets. We had some issues getting our Roundup Ready sugar beets. And so I'm at the point where I don't know if I can even come in and cultivate these and not do more damage than good. I'd like him to come in and tell us what we could put down or what we did wrong on the first spray. We followed the label instructions. We went right in the middle of the road in terms of the labeled rates. So something's going on. I don't know if we've completely lost this, Our hope was that these sugar beets, again, with 3 different fertilizer rates, and we're standing right at the break between the 2 fertilizer rates so far. My hope was that this was going to be a much longer term food source because sugar beets, you lift them out of the ground, we'll just put them on top of the ground and then the deer eat them at will throughout the fall and winter and early spring as they freeze and thaw. But I just don't know if this plot's even going to make. So we're really limited with these broadleaves. We can't come in with like a 2,4-D because we're going to hit the sugar beets as well. Down farther, real recent, we've put in some sorghum, some grain sorghum. That, when this weed pressure gets up, we're going to come over the top of that with some 2,4-D because that won't hit the grasses. And then we have another couple of food plots to still plant. We have Japanese millet for the birds. We're going to put in both purple top turnips and we're going to put in dwarf Essex rape. And so you'll have a few more food plots going in here later in July to capture any July rain and August growth. Then we have a blend of a wildlife blend that Ray's gave us to try. So again, we're going to figure out what we can do, if we can salvage this. If not, it'll be a learning experience for us for next year. But this is supposed to be sugar beets. You can see these bright yellow, kind of greenish plants. Those are sugar beets. And so we'll see what we can do. But right now, this is one big field of weeds.